Hey, Papa Smurf time, not Howdy Doody time. And Papa Smurf had a message. You better give Mummy her money back, or she's going to get very mad. A man walks away when every muscle says to stay. How many yesterdays, they each weigh heavy. Who says what changes may come? Who says what we call home? I know you see right through me, my luminescence fades, the desperate antidote, I am not afraid. I've been a million times in my mind, this is really just a technicality, frailty, reality. It's time to breathe, time to believe, let it go and run towards the sea. They don't teach that, they don't know what you mean. They don't understand, they don't know what you mean. They don't get it. I want to scream, I want to dream again, I want to breathe, I want to dream, I want to breathe. I want to float a quote from Martin Luther King. I am not afraid. I am not afraid. I am not afraid. Boy, is Papa Smurf constricting, huh? He's quite intense, that Papa Smurf. Truly. Oof. You don't want to keep him on too long. It might give you a headache. I'm going to originate a speech, a very important one right now. That if I don't, well, you know, this won't be possible this year, this summer of love. It's this is an invocation of the zeitgeist of the I Have a Dream speech by Martin Luther King Jr. This is consciously intended to send a wave of rippling love, peace, and wisdom throughout the land. A new rebirth of wonder. One of the most iconic and famous speeches of all time. I don't want to read that. I just want to read the speech. I don't want to do that. No, this doesn't need introduction right now, anyway. But it was on August. It was in Washington for Jobs and Freedom on August 28th, 1963. 8281963. 8 and 2 is 10, and 8 is 18, plus 1 is 19, plus 9 is 28, plus 6 is 34, plus 3 is 37. 3 plus 7 is 10. 1 and 0 is 1. That's the gematria value of the geometry value of August 28th, 1963. Just how many months? Just September, October, then right into November, back and to the left. But it came from a building up above. Just because the story is called official doesn't mean it's legitimate or true or anything that, you know, is good. Official from a military industrial complex that dropped bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki on Sunday morning. Or the Hiroshima was, I'm not sure when was Nagasaki, but Hiroshima was, people were sitting in church. And we're the good guys here, right? America? Yeah. We have a right to be judging and condemning Russia for invading Ukraine, which wasn't a good thing, obviously. But you see, it's all the same players, and it's all theater. It's a puppet show. It's a puppet show, and Papa Smurf will tell you that. And you don't even know it. You don't even know the Smurfs are blue because they represent the blue-collar workers, the working-class heroes that we are. And also who are blue in the book, the Munchkins, as I'm going to keep saying it. It's like, get it through your heads. Blue collar is a caste or a class that's being held in positions, frozen in place like bricks in a wall by Gargamel. Wicked sorcery. Invocation from the voice, using the voice to call forth realities, create events, chaos they're using. You can do it to create love and balance and attempt to push back by casting good spells for love and peace, which by reading mantras. 5 years ago, so here's Martin Luther King. I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. 50 years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon of light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been, this is Martin Luther King words, not mine, Martin Luther King's words, who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. This is Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, not my words. 1963, August, 28th? How many years? 5 before they took him out. 63, they took JFK out. They take out those who attempt to activate the Smurfs and the Munchkins to get them to realize they have to free themselves from Gargamel and the Wicked Witch. The evil sorcerers of this cabal who uses, again, the voice. They say someone is going to die, and they do. They say this crash is going to happen, it does. That's the power of the voice that you have not been taught, the key to the kingdom that's been withheld from you. Om Bhurva Svaha Tat Savitu Varenim Bhago Devasya Dhimahi Deo Yona Prachodayate. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity, but 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the main, what is this word? I'm not familiar with this. Oh, I'm sorry. By the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languished in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land. That applies to me right now, too. Any of us paupers, we're oppressed, suppressed, we're blue. On the inside, red when it comes out. Cut the crap about the fruits being divided by the fruit's tone. It's bullshit. Martin knew that. Why don't you? Words black and white don't make any sense. We're not that color, and we bleed red, and we all suffer the same. We all need to empathize with and sympathize with each other, and we need to get tough mama bear love here going, because we're being extinguished. This extinction event is on purpose. Get that through your skulls. And the only stopping it is us using this power for good collectively. Because one guy sitting here on his computer, doing the Gayatri mantra ain't gonna cut what we cut it, because these dark occult sorcerers are have all the money at their disposal. They own the money itself. So we've come here today to dramatize the shameful condition. In a sense, we've come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. This note was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. And I would add, Martin, I'm sorry I have to interject this, but today, as far as all the blue Smurfs and Munchkins in Munchkin land, blue-collar workers are concerned, regardless of the color of the fruit, the flesh, because they all bleed red. They're all ketchup inside. Ketchup. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds. That's with all blue-collar workers in Slavelandia, on the global plantation, like Prince called it, with daily routine geoengineering going on above our heads, poisoning us, leading to huge spikes in Alzheimer's, autism, and dementia. The aluminum is the number one ingredient of what they're spraying for this weather weaponry. It's getting into our breath, nanoparticles, and we test. Go get your hair tested for aluminum. See what you find. You're going to find high concentrations of it because they've been spraying us and themselves since at least the 40s with it, because it's cheap. And aluminum is meant to be in the ground, in the earth, like the uranium. So I'm meant to be taken out and put it floating around everywhere. What we're experiencing is what Walter and Lau Russell called atomic suicide. Having unleashed the atomic beast, brought all that uranium of Uranus up out of the earth. Uranus is a god. He's the father of the Titans, who Saturn, his son, deposes. Changing of the guard. Martin Luther King Jr., 425. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation. So we've come to cash this check, a check that will give us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice. We have also come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children. Martin Luther King Jr., 616. It would be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment. This sweltering summit of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not pass until that is an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. 1963 is not the end, but a beginning. Those who hope that the Negro needed to blow off steam and will now be content will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual, busyness as usual. We need to get off the clock. Come down off the cross. We could use the wood. We got to save humanity now. Woodstock 3, Vedic chanting, and Americana peaceful. You don't get in unless you're peaceful. No corporate sponsorship. Take it and get rid of them. They're that's Gargamel's workers and Gargamel's flying monkeys. Martin Luther King Jr., 653. There will be neither rest nor tranquility in America until the Negro is granted his citizenship rights. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundations of our nation until the bright day of justice emerges. But that is something that I must say to my people who stand on the warm threshold which leads into the palace of justice. In the process of gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protest to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. The marvelous new militancy which has engulfed the Negro community must not lead us to a distrust of all white people, for many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize their destiny is tied up in our destiny. Martin Luther King Jr., 854. They have come realize that their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone. And as we walk, we must make the pledge that we shall always march ahead. We cannot turn back. They are those who asking the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim of the unspeakable horrors of police brutality. We can never be satisfied as long as our bodies, heavy with the fatigue of travel, cannot gain lodging in the motels of the highways and the hotels of the cities. We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro's basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto to a larger one. We can never be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their selfhood and robbed of their dignity by signs stating for whites only. We cannot be satisfied as long as a Negro in Mississippi cannot vote and a Negro in New York believes he has nothing for which to vote. No, we are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down the waters and till justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. Martin Luther King Jr., 1048. I am not unmindful that some of you have come here out of great trials and tribulations. Some of you have come fresh from narrow jail cells. Some of you have come from areas where your quest for freedom left you battered by the storms of persecution and staggered by the winds of police brutality. You have been the veterans of creative suffering. Continue to work with the faith that honor and suffering is redemptive. Go back to Mississippi, go back to Alabama, go back to South Carolina, go back to Georgia, go back to Louisiana, go back to the slums and ghettos of our northern cities, knowing that somehow this situation can and will be changed. Let us now not wallow in the valley of despair. I say to you today, my friend, so even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. Martin Luther King Jr., 1254. I have equal value, not with equal abilities, equal value in the eyes of the Creator. All creatures. Martin Luther King Jr. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of our skin, but by the content of that character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day down in Alabama with its vicious racists and its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day right here in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls, and sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted and every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord that shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is a faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to hoe out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. Martin Luther King, 1529. This will be the day. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. If America is to be a great nation, this must become true. Martin Luther King Jr., 1558. So let freedom ring. from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous slopes of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring. And when this happens, when we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholic, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last.